Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 Zombies is undeniably the most divisive entry to date in the entire Call of Duty Zombies franchise. The amount of people that simultaneously love and hate this mode is just astonishing. Usually, Zombies fans are pretty black and white on which games are the best, but there's one exception to that rule, and that is, of course, Modern Warfare Zombies. So join me today as we go through the rise and the awful, painful fall of Modern Warfare 3 Zombies. MW3 2023, not to be confused with Modern Warfare 3 2011, was announced on August 17th, 2023. While everyone was surprised that we were seeing two Modern Warfare games back to back, they were even more surprised to see that a Zombies mode would be coming too. You see, a Modern Warfare game has never ever had zombies up until now. Yes, if you can believe that, we went about 15 years without a Call of Duty Zombies game set in the modern day. But nevertheless, it was finally coming, and a lot of people were both excited and skeptical. The official description that gave us our first look at MW3 Zombies reads as follows. For the first time, team up with other squads to survive and fight massive hordes of the undead in the largest Call of Duty Zombies map ever. Modern Warfare Zombies, also known as MWZ, tells an involved and unearthly Dark Ether zombie story set in the Modern Warfare universe. Expect to undertake missions across different regions that escalate in difficulty, with core zombies features and a cavalcade of secrets to discover. Ready up for an open world player versus enemy PvE extraction survival experience against some of the biggest enemies in Call of Duty history. As you can probably tell from that description, there was plenty of reason to be hyped. Team up with other squads, fight massive hordes, largest map ever, open world PvE extraction survival with the biggest enemies ever, and to top it all off, developed by Treyarch. Even if you were skeptical, you can't deny that Treyarch was promising some of the most innovative gameplay that the franchise had ever seen based off of just this blog post alone. But then details began to leak, and all of a sudden the community perspective began to change and got much more negative much faster. The biggest of all these leaks was that the mode would have a 60-minute timer. It wasn't going to be an endless game of round-based zombies like we were used to. Modern Warfare 3 Zombies was going to go all in on the Outbreak formula from Cold War, and this would prove to truly be the most divisive decision Treyarch could have ever made for this game. Some other details were leaked too, like having perks and upgrades dropped on the floor, a stash system that lets you keep and bring items in from other matches, and unlockable schematics that let you craft items on a cooldown to bring them into new matches. From the sound of the leaks, this mode was going to just be DMZ but with zombies. Needless to say, the Zombies community did not take this information lightly. Many fans were very upset or at least skeptical about the game. Remember, at the time this was happening, the last Zombies game we had was Vanguard, which also wasn't exactly the best time for the Zombies community. On October 5th, 2023, Call of Duty dropped the reveal trailer for Modern Warfare 3 Zombies. After those leaks and this trailer, it's safe to say that the community sentiment towards this upcoming mode was certainly leaning towards negative and not positive. I miss the old days when Zombies was dark and had a dedicated map with actual characters. COD really said, let's make every game mode from now on feel like Warzone. Let's be honest, Zombies will never be the same again. If you look really closely, you might be able to see an overall theme with this trailer. Warzone is ever present in this trailer, being on the newest Warzone map with vehicles, skyscrapers, parachuting, and all the other bells and whistles that come with a Warzone mode. It's not a trailer about how crazy zombies can be, it's a trailer about how tactical zombies can be. I probably don't have to tell you that this is pretty much the antithesis of the zombies mode that we all know and love, and you can understand why it was not received very well. One last thing about this trailer that was important is this big worm we see here at the end of the trailer. Leaks had gone around that there would be a huge world boss that the entire 24-player lobby could go and fight. This was one of the few things people really liked about this trailer, but things like that were just few and far between. There were two big marketing points for this mode. The first was open world zombies, pretty basic and self-explanatory, but the other, slightly more hidden marketing point is that this mode was the way to play the new Warzone map first. If you'll let me put on my little conspiracy theory hat real quick, it's a genuine possibility that this mode was just made so that Activision could advertise a $70 game that Warzone players would buy because they could level up their guns faster and get to know the new map a month before everyone else did. That's just my theory, but honestly I think it makes a lot of sense. Come November 10th, 2023, Modern Warfare 3 finally launched to the world, only to receive mostly negative reviews. The general consensus on this game is that the multiplayer was actually great, the zombies was mediocre at best, and the campaign was absolutely the worst thing ever spat out of a Call of Duty game. But this video is only going to cover zombies. It takes a lot of time and effort to cover a shipwreck, so I can only cover one of the three in this video, I'm sorry. To no one's surprise, community reception on day one was still mixed. Some positive, some negative, some in the middle. I myself thought that the mode was a pretty cool idea, but it was very buggy and I would crash in half the games I played and lose all my gear. Apart from that though, I actually thought the mode was kind of fun, albeit a bit lazy, and I enjoyed it. This only lasted for a little while though, as I found out that there was one massive problem with Modern Warfare Zombies. The core gameplay loop is about solving a problem that Treyarch created specifically for this game. But once you solve that problem, there's nothing to really do anymore. Once you get all the schematics, fill up your stash and your characters, get all the camos, there's just really nothing to do. Despite the idea of this being an open world sandbox, there are really no sandboxy things to do other than hitting zombies with a car or diving off the tallest building on the map. As much as I enjoyed playing this and shooting zombies, unfortunately I just could not find a reason to justify its existence. It did have over 100 guns because it has all guns from Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3, but many of them were not particularly unique, unfortunately. In previous games, there is a refined selection of weapons in zombies, which means all of them have some sort of purpose and some sort of unique pack-a-punch usually, but unfortunately that was just not the case here. There were also 3 wonder weapons on launch: the ray gun, the Wunderwaffe DG2, and the Scorcher. The ray gun is about the same as it was in Cold War and Vanguard, and the Wunderwaffe is the same as it was in Vanguard, but now it was actually a lot more powerful indirectly because every zombie drops loads of ammo for you to pick up. Wonder weapon spam is real in this game, and it is absolutely one of the metas. One of the other major negatives that the community latched onto here was having no proper main Easter egg on launch, just like Vanguard. Instead, there were 3 story acts which you did challenges to complete, which then rewarded you with a story mission to play and a cutscene to progress the story. These were just recycles of the DMZ mission system, and obviously very few people were happy with the system. The challenges themselves were also fairly grindy and took far too many hours to complete just to see the story. The only real Easter eggs that were here were side Easter eggs for getting free perks, teleporters, radios, and that's just really about it. One of the biggest gut punches to the community was that the ether worm we saw in the trailer actually wasn't a huge world boss. It was only part of the final story mission, meaning you had to start a mission to do it and could not actually fight it with the entire lobby. Another massively criticized complaint was the 1-hour timer. Basically, the match was on a 45-minute timer until an ether storm would start to come in and force you to go to a helicopter and exfil from the match. If you didn't do that, you die and lose all of your stuff. Once the storm overtook all the exfil points and you still hadn't exfilled, a final exfil would open up which has tons and tons of zombies to attack you, which is pretty cool, and everyone remaining in the lobby would have to rush to that exfil. Your stash was also limited to a mere 10 items you could hold in reserve for future matches. Pretty much everyone universally disliked this because there were so few items you could hold for the future. People extra didn't like this because the tabs for your stash that were purchased items from the store were actually not limited to 10, but were actually unlimited. I myself have like 65 items in that reserve stash, so obviously the 10 limit was just arbitrary and didn't actually mean anything. One other big issue, which is actually still a big debate going on in the present day, is that MW3 Zombies is wholly based on a server. There are no private matches, no solo matches, you are forced to play in a public lobby and you will be subject to Activision servers. I've had countless times where I've been kicked or disconnected and you would lose all your stuff from your character when this happened. With everyone being disconnected 4 times per day at launch, you can imagine that didn't go over very well. Even today, I'm still being disconnected and it's a toss-up on if you're gonna keep your loot or lose everything. Activision themselves states that dedicated servers are good because it means that they can use the server to handle a lot of the information that your own PC or console can't, and I do believe them to some extent, but it also comes with a lot of drawbacks though. I don't want to be unfair though, so I will admit that one of the great things that came from dedicated servers are having waves of hundreds of zombies on screen at a single time. This is really awesome and I hope Black Ops 6 keeps this too. With that all said, Modern Warfare 3 Zombies was generally viewed as a letdown by the community after launch. While it was not a total disaster like Vanguard was on launch, it was just overall not really impressive and didn't provide enough meat on the bone to keep players interested. However, once again, to be fair, MWZ did have a solid foundation to shape up to be a great mode after some updates that would genuinely evolve the formula of Call of Duty Zombies. But as we'll come to see here, that unfortunately was not the case. Season 1 for Modern Warfare 3 was released on December 6th and was one of the biggest updates in Call of Duty history. You can see here how much insane content was added, but we are of course focusing on zombies. A new story mission, a new experience called Dark Ether Rifts, the return of the VR-11 wonder weapon from Call of the Dead, new schematics, and a new Warlord boss. Compared to multiplayer, this isn't a lot of content, but in a vacuum it could have been much worse. These rifts were a really new, unique, and hyped up feature. The way they work is that you get a sigil from doing contracts, and then you spend it to go into the Dark Ether and do special contracts that are even harder with the chance of unlocking new and powerful items to use in future games. These rifts assume that you are fully geared up before you go in, so you'll probably be doing them at the end of the match. To that extent, they kind of act like a 30-minute extension to the timer on your zombies match. It's not a permanent fix for the timer issue, but it does help let you get some extra playtime in. The other main addition that wasn't listed here is a new boss, Greylorm, more commonly known as the Red Worm. The Red Worm is a special world boss that can actually be done with the entire lobby and nets you some great rewards at the cost of a big challenge. This is the world boss that Treyarch were promising us, and while it is technically just another reskinned worm fight, it's pretty decent and it's always a good time to play. The response to this update was pretty positive. It even added an Easter egg quest to unlock a secret hard version of the rift known as the Elder Dark Ether. If every update for Modern Warfare 3 Zombies was on this level, we thought we were going to have a pretty decent game on our hands by the end of the year. Unfortunately though, Treyarch took that sentence a little too seriously and quite literally did give us the exact same update every single time for the whole year. Season 2 is what I consider to be the start of the downfall of Modern Warfare Zombies. Up until now, things were starting to look more positive, but this marked a steep decline and fall off of zombies in this game. It wasn't even just a turning point, it was a complete and total drop off a cliff for the game. Season 2 was a zombies themed season featuring a collab with AMC's The Walking Dead. Horde Point was brought back from Call of Duty World War II in 2017, and that puts zombies and mimics in multiplayer. Rick Grimes and Michonne also made their way into the game as operators to play as, and yet they actually have very few voice lines that actually mention zombies. Yes, the character from the Zombies show have virtually no voice lines where they actually talk about zombies, I'm not kidding. As for new content in Zombies, there was a new story mission, a new Dark Ether Rift, new schematics, and a new Warlord. That's it. Get used to this format because this is virtually all we're going to be seeing for the rest of the game. I actually even made a video at the time talking about how awfully bad Season 2 was looking if you want to go check it out. This season also started a trend where everything added to Zombies would be added in season at the mid-season update. Basically, that means that the season comes out, but Zombies gets no new content until 30 days later at the halfway point. Obviously, that's a problem because it really dilutes the hype for these updates and they just got masked and fell into the shadows, unfortunately. The new rift was indeed a new area, but this update revealed to us that every Ether Rift was going to be a reskin of Al Mazrah, the Modern Warfare 2 Warzone map from 2022. It's the same map with the Ether crystals placed on it and a purple skybox and fog. This was criticized heavily by the player base for being a lazy reuse of assets. It would be one thing if they were heavily transformed, but they really were not. Season 3 was the exact same, absolutely no different than Season 2, just a repeat. Story mission, Dark Ether Rift, Warlord, new schematics, all in season, that's literally it. Season 4 had only one single main addition to the mode. This was called the Unstable Rift. Basically, you did a small side Easter egg around the map filling up soul boxes, then a red portal would spawn and whatever team got to it first was able to enter the rift. This rift puts you back in the Season 1 Dark Ether, but now you're locked in a small area and you can't leave. You have to survive 5 massive waves of zombies and bosses, and these truly are massive waves, and this is a very tough challenge. If you completed it, you got a cool camo, but if you died, then you lost absolutely everything. This is a cool idea, I won't lie, but this being the only piece of content for this season was just kind of lame. I can't imagine that this even took that long to develop. It just puts you in a previously made map and spawns a bunch of zombies. There's not even a guarantee that you can always do this rift. You can go around the map and do the side quest, but there's no guarantee that the portal will spawn next to you and you'll get to go into it. Any of the other 23 people in the game could steal it from you because it just happened to spawn closer to them. Season 4 also finally added an update that increased the player stash size from 10 to 20. This was a much needed change. 20 still isn't a ton, but it made a world of difference compared to just 10, and this was obviously a well-received change. Season 5 is the final season with Modern Warfare Zombies content. We got the final story mission, the final rift, and a couple more schematics. One of those being a stash size increase again up to 30. Now granted, I will say this is by far the best story mission and rift that they've added. It actually does feel kind of different from the map that it's derived from, and it had a pretty nice boss fight in the end that sort of wrapped up the story, but it left it on a cliffhanger that we're guessing is going to be resolved sometime in Black Ops 6 Zombies. Season 6 had no Zombies content whatsoever. All they did was half the timer on schematic cooldowns and make it so that you don't need sigils to enter the Dark Ether. And unfortunately, that was the conclusion of Modern Warfare 3 Zombies. It did not go out with a bang, but with a whimper. If you're familiar at all with my channel, you might know that I am one of the people that is upset about Modern Warfare 3. Not because I disliked it, but because I'm upset at how Activision and the developers are refusing to build up and innovate the mode to make it into something great. Right from the start, I felt like MW3 Zombies had insane potential. Sure, the launch was a little rocky, but I could see the potential. Some updates here and there, a couple patches, we could be looking at an awesome game by the end of the year that's worthy of the Zombies name. Unfortunately though, Season 1 was the only glimpse we got at that future. Instead, we got nothing but recycled content for 10 months straight. They didn't even make any Zombies content for Season 6, that's how done they were with this game. We've heard that there have been a lot of behind the scenes issues with this game too. Obviously Treyarch are making this at the same time as Black Ops 6, which is about to come out, and they're supposedly also making Black Ops 7 for next year. Around Season 4, Treyarch officially handed off development of the game to be handled by someone else. I believe it was High Moon Studios. Yeah, in case you didn't know, High Moon Studios works on Call of Duty. If that name sounds familiar to you at all, it's because they're the studio that made the Deadpool game a decade ago. I also firmly believe that Treyarch are having some bigger behind the scenes issues as well. There are so many opportunities for content in this game that we're not taking advantage of. One of those is Vortex. You may have noticed these Vortex maps when we were looking at the seasonal roadmaps, but these are basically special zombified multiplayer maps that you can play on. Airborne is this gross swarm infested version of Terminal. There's bugs flying everywhere, and overall it's just unsettling. If you've ever been attacked by a swarm of bugs in real life, then you'd know what I mean. Das Gross is a version of Das House that's covered in these weird tentacles that are overtaking the city and the skyscrapers. This one really reminds me of Doom Eternal. Satan's Quarry is a demonic and hellish version of Quarry with lava and magma and cracks forming everywhere. The map looks like it's inside of a volcano. It's super cool. Spore Yard is a dark ether version of Scrapyard. I actually quite like this one. I think it's my favorite. The blue colors here are really nice to look at. Skid Row is a bit less over the top. This one is just a version of Skid Row, but it's all overgrown with plants and stuff. This one really reminds me of The Last of Us. And finally, Tetanus is this really weird toxic version of Rust with pipes full of toxins running around everywhere. These two aren't Vortex maps, but I'd like to include these two Halloween maps from Season 6 as well. Ghost Ship is a demonic version of Shipment that looks really cool, and Mad Cow is also super dark and bloody. Both of these would fit well for Zombies too. Now, obviously, Zombies couldn't be on these maps because it's on the Warzone map, but I really think that Treyarch should have added Onslaught to Modern Warfare 3 Zombies. Onslaught is just a good, fun time. If you haven't played it, it's quite honestly just spawning in and shooting some zombies on multiplayer maps, but it's really fun. The maps are completely unchanged. The way it works is just that the zombies drop all the power-ups you need. They drop you ether tools, perks, pack-a-punch upgrades, new guns, all that stuff that you need to keep surviving the rounds. This isn't a very high effort mode at all, but that's exactly why I think it would work. It involves very little work to be made, and it just gets ported to the new maps. That way, Zombies players get new maps even when they aren't technically made for them. It's definitely not a replacement for round-based, but when you just want to hop on the game and shoot some zombies, or level up some guns, this is so much nicer of a time than playing the entire hour-long match of Warzone Zombies. With Season 6 of Modern Warfare 3 also came new Halloween-themed content. In addition to the two maps I just showed you guys, they released a new Warzone version of Vortex as well. This mode is called Purgatory, and it's on a new zombified version of Rebirth Island, with a 2-hour timer, yes, 2 whole hours, contracts, unlimited respawns, PvPvE, a flying island with shipment on it that you can control, and just so much more crazy stuff. If you want to see more of this mode, I made a video on it recently where I got a tiny little bit upset over it, but basically my point is that this is such a lost opportunity to bring this map to zombies. When this game got announced, I was so excited because zombies sharing assets with Warzone meant it should at least be supported, right? Nothing can make me understand how or why this mode on Rebirth Island isn't in zombies and why it's only in Warzone. Even the content that zombies did get was often sloppy. Right away, I noticed that they were withholding schematics for items that were already in the game and releasing them as content drops for multiple months. You're really gonna tell me that it took them months to program spawning an ether bike in front of you or spawning with a triple pack gun? Yeah, no, that was artificial content. I found myself only really coming back to Modern Warfare 3 because I wanted to test out the new guns and aftermarket parts that got added to the game. But let's be honest, these are made for multiplayer in Warzone. Very few of them get any meaningful upgrades when you pack a bunch of them too. Let's talk about something else though. How could we fix MW3 Zombies to make it great? Let's talk about contracts first. The gameplay loop of MW3 Zombies at its core is doing contracts. Every game you will be spawning in and doing contracts for 45 minutes to an hour until you either exfil or go into the dark ether to do even more contracts. This is how you get your points in your gear. The game launched with 6 contracts: Bounty, Cargo, Weapon Stash, Escort, Ether Extractors, and Spore Control. For launch, that was okay, because surely they would add more over time so the gameplay didn't get super duper stale, right? Nope. This game has been out for almost a year and they have not added any new contracts whatsoever. I'm not kidding, they have not expanded upon the core gameplay loop at all. What makes that even worse is that most of these contracts are just stolen from DMZ anyway, so there can't have been that much work that went into making them. The absolute very least that they could have done was port the remaining DMZ contracts and give them a zombies twist so that the gameplay didn't get so ridiculously stale. I have no idea how this wasn't in any post-launch plans at all. This almost seems like the very first thing that they would make for post-launch content. Here are some of those extra contracts. Secure Intel is a contract where you have to go to 2 or 3 locations and pick up intel, then go to a final place to upload the documents, and that final place is usually guarded by mercs. I don't think I have to say how easy this would have been to add because merc AI is already in zombies, they just need to add the intel spots. Hunt Squad is the same as Bounty, except instead of just one player, it's a whole squad. So the way this could work is instead of just one big bounty zombie, there could be like 4 or something, so it's much harder but gives you better rewards. Imagine you pick up one of these contracts and it's like 4 mega abominations all together. That would be crazy. Rescue Hostage is actually pretty interesting. You basically just go in a place and rescue a hostage. It seems pretty simple. But I think it's interesting because for zombies, this could be like a survivor that's trapped somewhere and you have to clear out all the zombies to save them. It'd be kind of cool if it was like a merc or something, and once you saved them, you actually got to keep them as a friendly until they died. Again, pretty much all of the systems are already in the game to do this, they just have to do it. Geiger Search gives you a Geiger counter and you go around tracking nuclear material that you collect and extract. Maybe for zombies they could have changed this so it was like dark ether material or something instead, I don't know. This one is actually from Warzone, not DMZ, but I think Most Wanted could have been a really cool contract for zombies. Basically, you'd grab it and then you'd have to survive massive swarms of zombies for 3 minutes or whatever. I think that would have been a great idea. That would have been a really fun contract. The last quest on here I think would have been great is the nuke quest from Warzone, but for zombies. Obviously this isn't exactly a contract, but it's still a quest, and it'd be cool to have some sort of crazy quest like this for some kind of zombies themed nuke or something. I just listed for you 6 extra contracts they could have added, 5 of them being with minimal effort. That could have been 1 new contract per season. There's even more contracts in the new Purgatory mode too. It's totally beyond me why we didn't get any of these. It's honestly, I want to call it like gross negligence. Contract locations are also a big issue that was never fixed. You see, every contract spawns in a specific location and always correlates to the exact same mission at the exact same spot. This isn't inherently bad, but the problem is that there are far too few of these and it becomes extremely noticeable very fast. Apart from just straight repetition, the big issue here is the tier 3 red zone. Because of how you can spawn in with triple pack and a ray gun and all that stuff, people spawn in and instantly just go to the red zone right away. This means that by 15 minutes into the game, there are a good 15 people running around this tiny little area, all fighting for contracts because only like 5 contracts spawn here and they don't replenish anywhere near fast enough. There are lots of issues like this that were present at launch and are still present to this day and have absolutely never been fixed. Now, I want to talk about map updates. When MW3 Zombies was announced, I was personally super excited because of all the map potential. While I'm not the biggest fan of copy and pasting the Warzone map with different color grading, what I am a big fan of is constant Zombies updates. Because I am a logical human being, I assumed that Zombies on the Warzone map meant that every time the actual Warzone map got an update, Zombies would too. But boy was I wrong. I know, right? How stupid of me. The reason that would be good is because it allows Zombies updates with far less effort than actually developing new content, because that content was already developed for a different mode and is just being repurposed. I don't want to be so pessimistic as to say this, but if someone from Sledgehammer or Treyarch told me that the entire reason this mode existed was to advertise Warzone a month early, I wouldn't be shocked in the slightest. The lack of post-launch map updates was frankly appalling. So many systems from Warzone never made their way over. The train that goes around the map, there's one. Imagine if there was like a train going around the map with Pack-a-Punch or some special reward on it or something. The bunkers are all around the map and are huge. All you have to do is open them with a keycard in Warzone and they give you loads of loot, but they do absolutely nothing in Zombies. You just can't go in them. They already made them. They already have the map to do it. In Season 4, they exploded the nuclear power plant for Warzone, but it stayed exactly how it was in Zombies. I don't want to hear the excuse that Zombies is a prequel to Warzone, because that excuse really doesn't work when the things being added have absolutely no bearing or weight on the story whatsoever. The entire place of the MWZ story in the overall timeline of Call of Duty as a whole means absolutely nothing, except for the fact that Soap is alive, so this game must be a prequel just because they need Soap to be alive. Which then even further begs the question, why is Soap even in this? Like, why is Soap even in Modern Warfare Zombies? What does he have to do with this? That's just Urzikstan though. I'm guessing if you're watching this that you're probably not the biggest Warzone player, so let me catch you up here. The current iteration of Warzone has a grand total of 6 different maps. That's right, there are 6 Warzone maps sitting in the MW3 game files, and you can only play one of them and then small chunks of another one. Hell, Rebirth Island is literally Alcatraz. It's literally Mob of the Dead, and they didn't do anything at all with that potential. I'm not going to go into detail on all of them, but the other Warzone maps are Ashika Island, Vondel, and Fortune's Keep. And to just add a little bit of salt to the wound, every Halloween, Vondel gets a Halloween Zombies themed remake called Von Dead. Only for Warzone though, not for Zombies. In case you haven't noticed, the point I'm making in this video is that I think Activision just hates Zombies players. Here are just some miscellaneous fixes that I think would be great for the overall quality of life of Modern Warfare 3, especially right now as the game is about to be over and they're sunsetting it. First and foremost, the entire mode should be taken off of Modern Warfare 3 and moved into Warzone. When Black Ops 6 comes out, I won't have this game installed anymore, but I will still have Warzone installed. Considering this is made up almost entirely of Warzone assets, for all intents and purposes, it is quite literally a Warzone mode. I think it should be put in there. That way, you could keep using new weapons or skins or whatever you want, and the mode would stay a little relevant and not just die with Modern Warfare 3. Kind of like how DMZ is listed as its own game mode in the menu, MWZ should work the exact same way. That way, Treyarch can focus on round-based zombies, which will keep people happy, and then a smaller team of whoever can consistently update MWZ over the years as part of a Warzone experience that's not tied to any specific game. And that way we can constantly be getting both round-based content and outbreak-based content. It would keep everyone happy that way. Second, and one you probably all agree with, the timer should be extended. 1 hour is simply not long enough to go from nothing to everything. If you have 2 guns to get max tier, pack 3 times, 10 perks to get an armor vest and a backpack, all that stuff, you just really can't do that all in 45 minutes. By the time you get set up, the match is already ending. I think the timer should be increased by maybe like 15 minutes. Nothing crazy, but just enough to give you at least a little wiggle room. As it stands right now, you only really get a lot of time at full power if you spawn in with all these things, and it just kinda handicaps the fun for me. This is one I'm kind of surprised I have to say, but MWZ also does not even have a scoreboard. In the past, Treyarch have said that they didn't really know how to do a scoreboard for this mode, which sounds fine at first, it's a little different than normal. But when you realize it's a Warzone mode, you wonder why they don't just steal the Warzone scoreboard. The game does track all your stats, it shows them at the very end when it calculates your XP, so why can't I see them in game? It just seems like a really weird oversight to me. Those are 3 things that I could complain about, but I think I'd like to just top all that off with them just fixing and ironing out the general jank. Ever since Zombies moved to the IW engine with Vanguard, there have been an insurmountable number of little quirks and janks that we aren't used to in Zombies games, and these things just need to be fixed. Since Black Ops 6 Zombies is also going to be on this engine, I'll be interested to see what Treyarch has ironed out and what they haven't. The biggest issue that needs to be fixed though is definitely all of the packet burst and packet loss issues. For the entire year that this game has been out, MWZ has always had horrible connection issues. I have definitely never gone a single match without having tons and tons of packet burst or high ping or something that's just very frustrating. So I can only hope that Black Ops 6 will fix all that. Modern Warfare 3 Zombies is one of the most bizarre and polarizing games in the whole franchise. Whether that's good or bad is up to you. It started with a good idea that could have properly evolved the Outbreak formula, but by the end we were all begging for any drip of real content and support for the mode. It's unfortunate because we've been playing Zombies for 16 years now and Treyarch are still afraid to dip their toes into experimental waters and actually commit to something. If you like this video, you'll also want to watch this video about the history of the ray gun. If you like the video, go ahead and drop a like and a comment to support me. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.